Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's Bendy and the Ink Machine video, we take a look at Henry's mysterious visions experienced during Bendy Chapter 4. These visions may at first glance seem like simple jump scare mechanics, but I believe they hold the key to finally explaining Henry's story and perhaps even hinting at how the game may end with the release of Bendy Chapter 5. This video will be a detailed look at not only these visions, but also the events that led up to Henry experiencing them, and will incorporate elements of my past theories to lead to a pretty crazy conclusion that would turn the story of Bendy on its head. So stay tuned to the end of the video. But before we jump into this video, remember to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified every time a new video drops. Let us begin by watching both of these visions together so we are all on the same page as to what Henry has experienced and what this new theory is all about. Roll that clip. Okay, so now we've seen the visions, let us go back to chapter 1, where Henry enters the studio for the first time in 30 years. Here Henry makes the discovery that his old work partner Joey Drew has been working on a strange and mysterious contraption known as the Ink Machine. Henry soon discovers the audio recording of studio handyman Wally Franks, and in this recording, Wally states that Joey Drew had asked the workers to donate items from their workstations and then place them on pedestals in the break room.
Joey had each one of us donate something from our workstation. We put them on these little pedestals in the break room to help appease the gods, Joey said.
Joey seemed to be conducting a ritual to appease the gods. We now know that these items were indeed needed to kickstart the ritual upon powering on the Ink Machine, bringing the Ink Demon and who knows what else to life in the process. What's interesting is that these items seem to represent groups of workers rather than any one person. The record represented the musicians and voice actors. The gear, the research and development team found in chapter 4. The wrench, the handymen like Wally Franks and Thomas Connor. The plushie representing folks working in the Heavenly Toys workshop. The book, the accountants such as Grant Cohen. And finally the inkwell, which obviously would represent the artists themselves. It seems the objects then could be used to transform workers at the studio into inky creations, such as Boris clones, searchers, and the inky lost ones seen in chapter 4. It may well have transformed Joey Drew into a twisted version of Bendy himself. These workers may have been dead and then reanimated back to life via the ritual process and the power of the Ink Machine. I mean, these coffins had to be there for a reason, right? Henry was himself a worker at the studio some 30 years ago, who seemingly left after falling out with friend and work partner Joey Drew. So by simple logic, we can assume that Henry is still tied to the inkwell in the same way other artists at the studio would have been. Meaning that when Henry powers on the Ink Machine and inadvertently begins the ritual, he has in fact contaminated himself and become part of it too, just like other workers such as Sammy Lawrence and Susie Campbell. This explains two things at the end of chapter 1, the first being Henry's epic fall. Not only does Henry plummet through several stories of the studio when running from Bendy, he also smacks himself on pipes and boards on the way down. There is really no way any human would survive this, but Henry may not be completely human anymore. Next we have Henry's reaction when he steps onto the pentagram at the end of the chapter. His surroundings darken and he sees flashes of past encounters. When he next wakes up, he comments,
"Oh, my head. happen?
So, this signifies his mental state has been affected for the first time just moments after kicking off the ritual. We then see both a change in Henry's body with the fall and a change in his mind as he faints on this pentagram. The next change we witness in Henry's transformation can be seen upon dying for the first time in the game, an addition that came with Chapter 4. This inky tunnel must be navigated, with Henry returning to the light and then being reborn beside a Bendy statue. Why a Bendy statue? More on that later. For now, let's focus on what this inky tunnel signifies. Listen carefully whilst inside the tunnel and you can hear voices. These voices played backwards are revealed to be echoes of Henry's past memories, all of which took place before the ritual in Chapter 1. The only character who has spoken about being reborn from the ink was Alice Angel, presumably voice actress Susie Campbell. Alice remarks that the inky womb is,
"Do you know what it's like? Living in the dark puddles? It's a buzzing, screaming well of voices. Bits of your mind swimming like fish in a bowl."
This sounds exactly like what Henry is experiencing, adding another layer of evidence to our theory he is part of a ritual and becoming an inky creation himself. As we move into Chapter 4, Henry once again recalls a memory from Chapter 1.
Alright, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
This is a much overlooked piece of evidence, I feel, as it actually reveals a potential plot point that would directly explain the visions we see just moments later. In case you have forgotten, at the end of Bendy Chapter 3, Henry and Boris plummeted down the elevator shaft after unleashing the fury of Alice Angel. Next, Boris attempted to wake Henry, but was snatched away by Alice before he could. However, don't you think it's weird how Alice left Henry in the wreckage rather than finishing him off? A simple explanation for this would then be that Henry actually dies in the canon story of the game for the first time at the end of Chapter 3. No human could survive such a fall, right? So the memory we hear at the beginning of Chapter 4 comes from a result of Henry's rebirth. With Henry now reborn, he is undergoing full-blown changes to his character and appearance. And this is where the visions come into play. Now Henry has been reborn from the ink, his own transformation has started. A transformation that causes him to start seeing the world differently, if only for a fleeting moment. Notice how everything shakes too. Why would this happen? The only conclusion I can come up with is that Henry's transformation is causing literal shockwaves, which means with this change, Henry may be gaining new powers. Think of when a Dragon Ball character goes Super Saiyan. If the ritual is giving Henry more strength, then perhaps this is how we will be able to face off against Bendy in the final chapter of the game. It's obvious from Henry's fighting ability and ability to take massive damage that the ritual gave him some power, but these visions may well be part of his true transformation into an inky final form. In the second vision, we can see arms reaching out to grab Henry. They seem to be attempting to consume him. This is further symbolic evidence, which tells us the ink is a living organism, calling out to Henry, trying to break down his mental will and allow it to fully embody him. Perhaps as a result of being in close proximity to the ink machine itself. But maybe you would like more evidence to satisfy your skepticism that Henry is indeed transforming into an ink being himself. Well then, let's take a look at the mysterious ink people known only as the Lost Ones. I have made a detailed theory explaining why I believe these miserable looking creations may be past workers of the studio, or souls of the dead reanimated into inky humanoid figures. So if this theory is proved correct, it means Henry may be on a similar trajectory. While I don't feel Henry is going to become exactly like these people, I do think these Lost Ones give us insight into Henry's visions. How exactly? Well, take a look at their eyes, and now compare that with the appearance of Henry's nightmarish visions. The colours and glow are uncannily alike, and so when we see this look through Henry's eyes, it is potentially Henry viewing the world through an ink person's eyes for the first time, and the way these Lost Ones see everything since their own transformation. So then Henry has become changed after activating the ink machine, but what is he changing into? We know not all workers at the studio turned into nondescript ink people and searchers. For example, both of Alice Angel's voice actors, Susie and Allison, seem to have taken on the form of the character they portrayed on screen. I also suspect Wally Franks and Thomas Connor became Boris clones due to the nature of their job roles. And a theory I refuse to let go of is that Joey Drew became evil Bendy, due to his part in the character's inception and involvement with writing and directing most of Bendy's cartoons. However, we know that Joey wasn't the only creator involved with the dancing demon.
On the plus side, I've got a new character I think people are gonna love.
That's right, Henry seems to be Bendy's original artist, and we can see his initial design was rejected by Joey. Perhaps the last straw that caused Henry to finally leave the studio. Notice here that Henry's vision is also affected during the Bendy projectionist fight. Once again a telltale sign either that the ink possession becomes stronger due to Bendy being a creation of Henry, thus forming a psychological bond between the two, or because Bendy may be Joey, Henry's old friend, or perhaps even both. So, Henry may well be on his way to becoming a good version of Bendy, one that reflects Henry's seemingly pleasant, good-natured character and his original vision for the cartoon, while Joey represents the more devilish revision and his cruel and malicious persona. This means that Henry may finally transform into a cartoonish figure resembling his Bendy in Chapter 5, and with his new powers getting stronger than ever before, throw down against his old friend, Joey Drew, who embodies an evil version of Bendy 2. Creator versus creator, Bendy versus Bendy. It would be a fantastic way to close out the story, and by stopping the ritual, perhaps the workers would change back to their human form, and Henry will be revealed to be the prophet who sets everyone free, unleashed from their inky prisons, and human once again.
Soon he will hear me. He will set us free.
And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This theory has sort of been collecting some of my old theories and then elaborating them to make this new theory and explain everything properly. Obviously, as new chapters of the game have come out, I have revised previous theories and altered them slightly, and I do feel like this theory could have a lot of weight to it and may well be where the story of Bendy ends up. But we've only got one more chapter left, so we'll have to wait and see. If you did enjoy this video, as always though, remember to give it a like, leave me a little comment down below, and of course subscribe to the channel for more Bendy videos and also more horror related content, including creepypasta readings and general interest horror videos. And with that, I will say goodbye and see you all on the next video.